Welcome, everyone. We'll give everyone just a few moments to pile into the room here. All right. Hello, and welcome to our virtual seminar, How to Drive Buyer Urgency. This seminar is brought to you by Rain Group, a global sales training and performance improvement firm that helps companies unleash the sales potential of their teams. I'm Katie, your host. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes. First, you can type any questions into the Q&A pod. We'll answer a handful of these at the end of the seminar. Second, we do have a discussion planned early in this session, so keep an eye out and share your thoughts in the chat when prompted. And third, we are recording this event. You'll receive an email by the end of the week with links to watch the recording. Now, to introduce our speaker, Andy Springer. Andy Springer is the Chief Client Officer for Rain Group. He leads the global delivery team, which designs, measures, and delivers every client the results they seek when engaging Rain Group. Andy is recognized authority on high-performance sales and leads Rain Group's mission to unlock the full sales potential of its clients. Over the past 18 years, he has worked with thousands of sales teams in SME, mid-market, and enterprise organizations, driving sustained sales improvement. Andy is renowned for helping sales leaders stay focused on the proven strategies and activities that fuel real, measurable growth within their teams. Take it away, Andy.
Thank you very much, Katie. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to those joining us on your Wednesday afternoon. No, it's a Tuesday afternoon for some of you. Wednesday morning, and welcome to everyone who's joining us from far afield. My name's Andy Springer. I'm, as Katie said, Chief Client Officer with the Rain Group, and very privileged to be sharing this content with you today. So what are we going to achieve? Because I'm here to help you, and I would really like us to get focused on a couple of things that we are going to hopefully have you doing coming out of today's webinar. So we want to focus on showing you ways to initiate buyer collaboration early. We want to look at how we can focus today when we're talking about not just deal velocity and collaboration, but how do we help you differentiate you and your offering throughout the sales process so that ultimately we do improve your deal velocity. So before we jump into it, I want to hear what's happening in your world. So let's get the chat up, and I want to hear from you on how do you keep your deals moving forward. So we've got, I can see a few familiar faces, a few of you in the complex selling world that are joining us. Welcome to you. Let's hear from you in the chat. I'm going to just open that up now. And what I'd like you to do is put in the chat, how do you keep your deals moving forward? Tell us what are some of the ways in which you are currently helping or aiding your deals to be moving forward at a more rapid pace. So always book a next step or move on. Love that, Campbell. I have a saying, book the meeting at the meeting. One of my wise sales mentors told me that never leave the meeting without booking the next meeting. Why? Because it creates the advance. It gives us the next milestone to move forward with and make sure that we can keep our opportunity progressing with our buyers. Thanks, Colleen. Managing expectations, defining clear next steps. Renee's saying multi-thread. Scott is saying we keep our deals active and updated in our pipeline. So making sure we've got visibility of our pipeline, it's active. We capture data to make sure that we can see where each opportunity is at and how it's progressing. So thank you very much, Scott. So Ina's saying stay in contact, agree a new follow-up meeting. Thank you, Marcy. Small commitments and actions to get buy-in. Norman saying stay in touch with clients and ask questions to sense roadblocks. That's a really great point. Asking questions all the time, never assuming. Deal velocity has a lot to do with asking more than telling. Great one. Thank you very much, Norman. Marcy, constantly showing value. Well, if every seller was able to do that, Marcy, and do it consistently, we would be out of a job. So really great that you brought that to the forefront of our thinking. Constantly showing value throughout the sales process. It intrigues the buyer, it brings them in, it engages them more where they see value, and that can certainly aid deal velocity. Thank you. And so D Easter, I will capture that. Scheduling the entire cycle in the beginning and always verifying next steps are on schedule at every meeting. That's a great idea. So building out the schedule in terms of the buying and selling cycle, and then leveraging that schedule and making sure that everyone's still committed to it as we go. Thank you very much for that, Dennis. Deliver what we promised. Fred is saying acknowledging checks. So get acknowledged checks from the customer throughout the process. So we're seeing that. Hello to Chris Rycroft. Good to see you again. So Howard, keep aligned with the customer on the business reasons and business case justification. Jose saying, following up and sharing valuable information regularly to stay at the top of mind of my prospects and clients. And hello, iPhone. Good to see the iPhones joined us. Value addition, and Colleen is saying creating value versus communicating value. Interesting. That's a very interesting comment. I like that, Colleen. Creating value versus communicating value. That is a good one, and something that I will build on throughout our time together today. All right, let's continue forward. So Rain Group, as for those of you who know us, we're a research-based sales development organization. What does that mean? We don't sit there and go, well, we think this is going to work, so we'll just put it out there. No, we go and research and study buyers and sellers in the B2B selling space around the globe. And then we release our research in white papers. If you go to our website, you'll see a ridiculously large library of our research in all different areas that will help you. And so when we were doing research on deal velocity as part of one of our previous research studies, here's what we found that's currently happening. So in the past 12 months, sales cycle time for deals has, in a majority of cases, increased. So the speed at which buyers are wanting to buy and wanting to transact has overall increased in terms of what the market is telling us. But guess what? What we also found was the percentage of opportunities proposed and has gone to lost or no decision has also increased. So think about that. A buyer has a need, is in market exploring options to go and solve the problems and or help them, look for ways to achieve their company's objectives or their organization's objectives. And they end up not making a decision. They end up going, yeah, okay, we're just going to put that on pause. What's happening there? Think about that. There's a need, but the progression towards fulfilling that need stalls. So what if there's a why act, right? In terms of the value proposition, there is a why act that the buyer has. There's a need for them to act. But why now? Is the question that hasn't been answered, and they've withdrawn from the market. They've withdrawn their offer to purchase from the market. And so a lot of that sits in how sellers drive and keep and maintain urgency and severity in the deal. And so good deal velocity that brings that to life means that we generate urgency, not just why a buyer should act, but why should they act now, and keep that top of mind and making sure that we're answering that question and reinforcing it throughout our sales process and the buying process for the buyer. So when we do that, when we drive urgency and severity effectively, we see sellers who do that effectively sell more. And when they do it effectively, and why act, why now is at the top of the mind in terms of the buyer and why they should be progressing and purchasing with you as the seller. We see sellers who do that effectively have a higher likelihood to close and win the sales opportunity. So how do we create that? So for a lot of you, you do a really good job with a limited set of buyers. What does that mean? You find an entry point in, you do needs discovery, you engage with a small or limited set of buyers, you have a limited set of need, and you connect with those and you sell and solve to that buying group. Those who have a significantly higher win rate, those who we call top performing sellers, they do something very differently. And I see it all the time. They do stakeholder engagement, stakeholder mapping incredibly well. So they don't just look at who is the entry point into the organization. It's who are all the other stakeholders that are influencing, approving, and defining the needs in terms of what they will buy in their to meet their total set of needs, which often sees the seller increase the size of what they end up selling to those buyers. So it's not just connecting at your landing point; it's constantly looking at who are the other buyers influencing, defining, and owning the outcome of what we're seeking to sell them. So they do stakeholder mapping and stakeholder management incredibly well. But they connect with the decision makers on the buyers team and those who are influencing the needs, not just at their landing point when they initiate needs discovery. They speak to the buyer's needs and not just uncover what we call the aspirations and afflictions, the problems, the challenges, the issues, the goals, the objectives, the desires. But they ask impact-focused questions as well to expand their understanding of what the buyer's true value gap is in terms of what they're seeking. So for those of you who want to increase deal velocity, who you're speaking to and the type of questions will certainly impact that. They inspire action. They give them reason to act now, as I've said in my opening, and they help their buyer understand the case for change, right? And I'll talk about why that's important and how we're going to help you do that in the most simplest way possible. In 2016, I was working with a very large ICT provider in the APAC region on a sales transformation. What I was constantly being told by sales leaders and sellers and solution architects and all of those involved in these complex sales was, I am so time poor. I don't have the time to do all the things that I need to do to be better, and just staying on top of all the demands that the client's giving us and all of the progression of these opportunities. I'm just flooded. I don't have time. And what we realized was one of the biggest inhibitors of them winning more was their ability to get from initial needs discovery into the next stage conversation with their buyers. And so what was happening is they do needs discovery, go and engage all these stakeholders, understand the complexity and the solution. They would spend weeks in proposal creation and create these really great complex proposals. And often what we were seeing was by the time they were coming back, others had been engaged and working with the buyers and they'd been forgotten about. The deal velocity that the other sellers that they were competing against were driving, even whether they were having less effective solutions that they were presenting, meant that they were engaged with the buyer more frequently, more often, and they were outbidding and winning against our client. And so I found a tool in our vast library, and it was called the Buyer Change Blueprint. And I said, what if we were to change up our approach and really solve this problem and inject a level of urgency and severity into the way in which we approach, but given how time poor you are, do it in a really simple way. And as you can imagine, everyone's ears go up and go, all right, if that's possible, I'm in. And I introduced this concept, this tool that we have called the Buyer Change Blueprint, which I'll just put on the screen right now. With this client, what we were able to do was get them from initial needs discovery back in front of the client, leveraging this tool in under 48 hours. So they went from 3-4 weeks where they were almost disconnected with the buyer to coming back in some cases within 48 hours and working with the buyer, leveraging this Buyer Change Blueprint. It had a profound effect in terms of not just their deal velocity, but their win rate as well. And that's why this of the tools is one of my favorite tools. And I know there's a couple of Rain Group people watching on here because they wanted to hear me walk through this today. This is one of my favorite tools that solves so many problems throughout the sales process. And guess what? What we found was buyers love this approach when we use this tool. So I'm going to explain it to you as we go. I'm actually going to build one live. And well, I prepared it earlier, but I'm going to build it live in front of you in terms of showing you the steps and how it all comes together in an example, right? It's the best way to bring it to life rather than just talk about it conceptually. All right, so I just want to say I'm not going to be talking much about needs discovery. For those of you, I know some of you have been on previous webinars I've done. We've talked a lot about that. We've got tons of content out there in terms of how to lead effective needs discoveries and how buyers are constantly telling us sellers are doing a worse job than they were 20 years ago at uncovering their needs and how they show up in needs discovery. But I'm going to assume that a lot of you have done a really effective needs discovery. You understand the root causes of your buyers' aspirations, afflictions. You've uncovered and have a really good understanding of both their rational and emotional needs for buying. You understand the next steps in the discussion to keep keep the sales cycle moving and aligned to their buying process. And you have a sense of the solutions and ideas that is going to bring value and benefit your buyer. Now, I just want to throw in, if you are what I might describe my 2016 client that I was working with on that sales transformation, if that was you and you go, yeah, that's me, Andy, I go and do really good needs discoveries, and then I have to go away and work through my system and get a big proposal built, and it takes forever, and I can't get back in front of my buyers really quick, and that slows things down, and that has them either disconnecting or talking to others. Then I want to talk to you about one of the key benefits of what this getting back in front of your buyer quickly using the buyer change blueprint can do. It introduces an option, it creates an opportunity, I should say, for you to collaborate with your buyer more effectively, right? So if you send proposals, if you build proposals and send them, which I know a lot of sellers do, it's a big no-no. One of the big breakthrough moments when I observed some top performing sellers many years ago was they never sent proposals. What do? They walk through them. They share them. They initiate collaboration on draft proposals. But sometimes that can take weeks just to get to proposals. So if you go there, it can slow things down. And this is one of the big issues is for those of you doing that, you're going to risk disengagement of your buyer and let your competition in if they are more effectively collaborating. What we want to do is we want to get back in front of our buyer post needs discovery as quickly as we possibly can, knowing we're not going to have a detailed proposal, to drive and initiate collaboration, right? We're going to talk about psychological ownership a little bit later, right? The transference of your ideas as a seller and you owning them to the buyer owning them. And for some of you, that's going to be your breakthrough moment here today is, I've got all these great ideas. I know how to bring value. I know how to share it. I know how to communicate it, but buyers aren't buying it. That's because they're not owning it. It's not that you're not a good seller. It's the fact that they are not owning your ideas, and you need to help them own your ideas. And the only way to do that is to effectively collaborate, right? And so we'll talk about that a bit more and how we leverage the buyer change blueprint to initiate that collaboration. For those of you who are technical sellers, I see some of you joining us from the US who are, and I know you're in the complex sale world. You're sitting there going, yeah, I get that, but how do I communicate really technical concepts in a single page in 48 hours and it be effective? We'll answer that. I know some of you are like, yeah, that might not gel with our sales approach. It works in every sales approach. We've done it in technology. We've done this in professional services, accounting, legal. We've done it in manufacturing, packaging, all different sales motions in sales industries. We've seen very effective use of this. But before we begin, some of you need to understand something which I only learned by observing buyers buying. Over many years, what I realized was everyone's focused on solution selling. Nothing wrong with being solution focused. It's part of what we do. It's not the only thing we need to be doing. Buyers buy outcomes, not solutions. Solutions enable the outcomes that the buyers are buying. really clear to me by not training top performers, by watching, studying top performers, is that they differentiate throughout their sales process by staying constantly focused on buyer outcomes. So some of you, and a lot of you hear that word, trusted advisor. I want to be a trusted partner of our clients, of our buyers. Top performing sellers who have realized that status of trusted partner, trusted advisor, whatever you like to call it, that's the secret sauce right there. They're not in there selling solutions. They're in there focused on partnering with the buyer on how to get their outcomes. It completely changes the dynamic of the selling and buying process when you do this. And for some of you, that might be your breakthrough moment right there. I've got to focus on my buyer's outcomes rather than just the solution I want to sell them. So the way you stay focused on buyer outcomes is what's built into the buyer change blueprint. We call that the new reality. So the new reality is not focused on the solution that's going to meet their needs. It's what does the solution enable for the buyer? What are the outcomes? What is the picture of that future state that when all these problems are solved, when all these objectives have been realized that you're seeking to achieve and solve, what does the future state look like? There's your outcomes right there. We're building a picture of the future once all those things are done and that you've helped enable right through your solution. So let me walk you through it. Let's start a journey. Let's build one of these things. So I know we've got quite a lot of you from the technology space on our webinar here today. I've just chosen to build a technology example. So in this case, the seller from the technology firm has captured the needs of the buyer, right? Their cloud system is outdated. It struggles with the scale. It gets in the way of the business growth. The buyers said they've got security, compliance, their major concerns, they're challenged in terms of meeting industry standards. It's complex. They want more seamless integration as their tech stack evolves and all of the things that they want to plug into it and for things to integrate more effectively with a cloud platform. They need a solution that's going to improve collaboration, leveraging technology to drive collaboration across their teams and share data more effectively. And they need that solution to be cost effective. So we've gathered, that's the summary of need that the buyers said to us as we've done a really effective needs discovery. So we come out of that meeting and we go to a buyer change blueprint and we go, right, how do we take those needs and articulate them in a way that's going to resonate with the buyer when we play them back to them, let's say in 48 hours. I'm going to meet them again in 48 hours. We come out of the needs discovery and I think it was Campbell. We booked the meeting at the meeting. Well done. We're going to be they've said 48 hours. You're coming back to us in 2 days. Great. Love to hear your thoughts in 2 days. Let's meet. So you head out of the needs discovery and you're right, I've got a meeting in 2 days. I've got to build a buyer change blueprint. I'm going to articulate their needs. But I also need to articulate, I understand your needs, but I also understand the future that when those needs are met is going to be the future that you're going to be living in. You're now going to be enabled to do the problems once they're solved are going to create this future for you. And we need to start articulating it. So we want to build our current state. At the same time, we want to be starting to build that picture of that future state or new reality, as we call it. So we want to articulate it. And as you can see, it's not just going, well, here's your current state and your new reality is the exact opposite. It's describing it in a different way that's much more aligned with building the picture, all right? And you'll see by this demonstration in terms of how we've taken their needs, we've summarized them effectively in the current state. We said, here's where you are right now. And then we've articulated in words at the moment and painted a picture of the future state in the new reality, right? So they're the first and what I would say are critical points to do as quickly as you can coming out of that needs discovery. Now, for some of you who are extremely time poor, I'll give you a little secret. This is one of our AI-ready tools. And so where it would normally take me between 30 to 50 minutes to build a buyer change blueprint post needs discovery when I would go out with our sellers and observe. It's now taken about 8 to 9 minutes, leveraging large language models, ChatGPT. Some of you use Copilot, Bing, Google, whatever your large language model that you choose is. And especially if you have a paid version and it remembers you, and it remembers your history, and it remembers how you like to input your buyer's needs and how you like your current states and your new realities curated. You can plug those needs in very quickly to a large language model and build a picture of the new reality very quickly, rather than sitting there scratching your head or having lots of conversations internally, like I know some people like to do. Speed and doing it really well, but building it and building intelligence over time, leveraging a large language model, is very much an option here for you who want to do this in really quick time, because you're time poor, but you need to, the outcome of your buyer change blueprint needs to be really good. So think about that as you go. I'm not going to deep dive into how to use AI for it. We might do that in a future session. Hit us up if that's something you're interested in. We'll see what feedback we get. But we've got our current state, we've got our new reality. So let's have a look at the buyer change blueprint in a little bit more detail before we start building any further. So the objective of the buyer change blueprint is to actually begin differentiating yourself by the way in which you engage the buyer differently. So if everyone's showing up like you, do a needs discovery, everyone asks the same questions, buyer feels like they've been, they've had the same conversation multiple times with multiple vendors, trying to win their business, solve their problems. They're thinking, a lot of buyers tell us, while sellers think they're different, most of them show up the same. So differentiating yourself throughout the selling and buying process is certainly what we've seen the buyer change blueprint enable, right? So differentiate yourself, and you want to do that as concisely as possible, right? Less is best. Those who can communicate simply get cut through more effectively. So we want to differentiate ourselves, and because we're using the change blueprint, be concise. Buyers like you being concise. We want to very quickly show the buyer, hey, we have done effective needs discovery because we're demonstrating a deep understanding of your needs. We want to be able to leverage and collaborate early in the buying process. The earlier you can collaborate with the buyer, the quicker you have the opportunity to transfer ownership of your great ideas into them owning your great ideas. And the only way we do that is through effective collaboration. And then we want to provide a foundation for your future proposal. Now, interestingly enough, in terms of that, what I've seen in terms of effective buyer change blueprint application is that in some cases, I've seen through that collaboration, the buyer literally write the seller's proposal for them that they're going to buy. And it is quite amazing once you drive collaboration effectively and you're working and you're sharing ideas and you're taking their ideas and your ideas and you're coming together, you're literally creating the future proposal that they're going to buy. And they already see themselves owning it because they're contributing to it. So let's have a look at the cases you've got to make. So we've got the buyer change blueprint helps make all these cases, and we've shared some content on this before, so I'm not going to deep dive into it, but you've got to talk about the priorities and the what, the approach that we're going to take, the how we're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the why, how taking this approach and us working together on this is going to realize the return on investment, the why, the because of what you're seeking to achieve as a buyer. The when, why they should act now, not later, in terms of what we're proposing and why it's going to meet the need and why they should act on that now because of that. And then the partners, who? It's not with us, it's with them. So the buyer change blueprint helps make the 5 cases that we've talked about here. So the core is what we've talked about, is the current state, your solution, and the new reality. That's what I call the core. These are the 3 boxes, right? Now, I'm going to show you the complete buyer change blueprint in this session. But for some of you who are super time poor and you really just want to go, well, Andy, if I was going to build the simplest, most effective buyer change blueprint, what should I use? Just use current state, solution, new reality, right? I see a lot of sellers very effectively position their playback post needs discovery as, here's where we understand you're at the moment, current state. Here's where we understand you need to be in the future, new reality. Here's how we think we can help you get there. Let's talk about that, right? So that's simple. For some of you, that's like, okay, that's just all I need. But I'm actually going to show you all of these elements, and we're going to build that out based on the technology example that I shared before. So you want to use metrics where possible, demonstrate your deep knowledge and understanding of the buyer's priorities and needs, and we want to keep it concise and compelling. So we put it in the current state. I've already shared that with you. Let's have a look at the next one. New reality. You want to visualize the change. Now, I showed you an example, and I'll show you it again in a second, where it was just text-based. Text is fine, but pictures are better, right? So what we've seen is, for those who have a little bit more time, they take the text and they build it into pictures. We've got some great examples there. I don't have time to share that right now. But if you can visualize, if you just visualize the new reality in a more effective way, it engages the buyer even more than the text that you have. But some of you, speed, we're focused on deal velocity. Text is fine. You'll still get a good outcome and realize the objectives that we're talking about. But if you've got a bit more time and you can visualize it and add pictures to it, it engages buyers even more. All right, so we're going to talk about presenting it back and how we do what I just said a little bit more towards the end. And think of the new reality as the conclusion of the story that you're telling, right? This is a story. And as we know, stories sell more effectively than just telling buyers. So we've put that in that example. Now we're going to talk about your solution. So think about our conversation now. We're in our next series of meetings, let's call it, with our buyers. We've done needs discovery. We're sitting here. We've said, here's your current state. And they've said, yeah, wow, you really understand where we're at. Here's the new reality. This is the future that the business outcomes that you're looking to realize throughout this. Yep, you really understand where we're seeking to go here and the outcomes we're seeking to produce. Fantastic. Here's how we think we can help get you there. Now, if you're in a collaboration conversation and you start waxing on about your solution and you're like, we're going to do this, and about 2 minutes in, most buyers are going to have their eyes roll back in their head and they're going to go, oh, here we go. I'm just being sold to now. I'm being pitched, right? I'm in my next series of meetings with this seller or this group of sellers, and right, they're already pitching me, and I've got no detail. And like, if you go to pitch here, the balloon just deflates. All right. This is not about pitching. This is about very quickly coming back to the buyer and in the solution, giving them a headline view of how you might be able to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And here are your initial ideas. This is your headline solution, right? Bullet points, right? And the bullet points and your playback of your solution and your ideas is just to start, initiate a conversation to begin collaborating with your buyer as early in the sales process or in the buying process as we can. So, as I said, we don't want to over-engineer it here, and I'll give you an example here of one that we and these names and product names are all fictitious based on real examples, but we've changed the name, right? So we've got a product here that's going to help scale your business with rapid growth. This product is something that we think is going to help with your security. This is the one that's going to drive connection and help with collaboration and access to data quickly. Here's how we're going to help drive. Oh, sorry, that one's the collaboration one. And here's how we're going to minimize cost. That's it, just a headline view. Now, you might just walk through that quickly, and the first question you're going to get is something like, yeah, interesting. Tell me more about this Shield Sec. Hey, in terms of dashboarding and collaboration, how does Insight Flow actually drive collaboration amongst my team? Just walk me through what that might look like. And then it might be, yeah, that's really good. I think our focus right now should be on scale. like, whilst we need to drive collaboration, security, compliance, and minimizing costs is critically important. All of them are important factors. The most important thing I need to understand is, how does what you're talking about here actually enable our rapid growth? Because that's what, our CEO is always talking about. Let's talk about that. Now, the buyer will come back to you and they'll start talking about this if you just pause, or you have some questions ready to go to initiate the collaboration. Might be, would love your initial response, would love your initial thoughts on what we've just shared. Bang. This is the start of collaboration. It isn't pitching your solution. Here's the headline view of how we can help get you from where you are to where you want to be. And here's our initial thinking. We're here to talk about that, because when we come back in the future and we put a proposal in front of you, we want to make sure that that proposal is going to deliver that new reality for you. And this is part of our process to make sure that we help you get there. And so that's where we're at, in a very quick, headline, concise way, leveraging the buyer change blueprint and just those 3 boxes to initiate that collaboration early. Now, here's the added bonuses that you can put on top of it if you go beyond the 3 boxes of current state, solution, and new reality. You can add advantages of the approach. What makes your offering and what makes your organization unique? Why should they choose you over a competitor instead of an internal solution? And what are the specific advantages of working for you? I've built some examples. I'll show you the advantages of approach in a second. I've just taken 6 quick statements or 6 quick bullets that we've put in this example that I'll show you what that looks like. You can put it as a sentence. There's a variety of different ways that you can show that. Next one is metrics. That underneath the 3 box, you put your metrics. So what does success look like in terms of numbers if it's achieved? So think about the needs, break down the needs, and then think about the metrics that are going to show connection to that. Because some people, some buyers purely want to just see the numbers, right? And we're starting to put some numbers out there of what we think it's going to look like in terms of tracking towards meeting the needs and the new reality. And once we've realized the new reality, the future state, here are some of the improvements that you could potentially see in terms of numbers based on our initial estimates. And of course, you want to, I say the words initial estimates, we've only had a short amount of time, but here's where we think in terms of numbers you're going to land. I'll show you some examples on that in just a second. And then the mission. Everyone loves a mission. Buyers love the fact that you're on a mission to help them do something, but a lot of sellers can't summarize it effectively. What's the statement that says what the top priority is and make it simple for the buyer to look at that mission and go, oh, wow, this selling group really gets us, and that is the mission that we are on, and they clearly understand they want to get on it with us. It brings everything together in a real simple statement, and it ends on a high note. So here, let's have a look at what that all looks like. Here's your fully built example of a buyer change blueprint. Now, it is text, right? And I've had to use text to show you what we would be writing before I could show you what visuals you might add to it. So that maybe we'll do an advanced version. Or for those of you who are engaged with already, we can show you more visual examples of the change blueprint that might inspire you to visualize it more effectively. All right, so current state, solution, new reality. That's our core. And then our bonus information is we've got our advantages of our approach up the top there, right? So smarter decisions, scalable growth. We're going to enable smarter decisions. We're going to enable your growth, the scaling, and we're going to enable scalable growth inside your organization, drive seamless integration, enhance efficiency. You can see that. I won't need to read it all. But look at the measures of success, or metrics of success, I like to call it. We've called it measures in this example, but you can call it whatever you like. But I tend to find metrics lands really well. But in some cases, buyers like the term measures. So we're going to drive down compliance violations, we estimate, by about 40%. We're going to drive down the time it takes to make decisions by about 200% in terms of what we're doing. We estimate collaborative efficiency, we will be able to drive up initially by 25%. We're estimating through this reason, through very early analysis of how this solution might work. that productivity is likely to increase 62%. And we think there is a very, I guess, comfortable assessment of around a 10% reduction in your IT costs. Now, remember, it's early days. This isn't a fully fledged proposal. This is a buyer change blueprint on a page. We've come back in front of our buyer very quickly. They're not going to give you ridiculous inspection in that short period of time on all of these. They appreciate, particularly if you've got analytical buyers that you're talking to, they will appreciate the thought and the estimate if you're able to make that. And then look at that mission. Our mission is to help enable smarter decisions and more growth being enabled in your organization through a unique platform approach. Smarter decisions and growth enabled. Yes, that's the mission we're on here. And you think that you can do that through a unique platform approach. All right, that makes sense. Now just pause for a second and think about this. This is sitting with your buyer. It's sitting with your buying group very early, as early as you possibly can in their buying process. Now, we're collaborating with them. You know, they might say to you, oh, I'd probably, you know, when you look at integration with client tools being difficult, maybe we need to describe that a little bit more effectively, because if I put this in front of Sarah, who's our VP, she's probably gonna, we need to just articulate that a bit differently. So let's change that. Oh, great. Okay, yeah, we can change that. You know what? We should really highlight Nimbus One and growth in the solution, and maybe let's trim back the others and let's kind of add more in the, this is what happens. What's happening is this often becomes a tool that buyers take from the seller to go and socialize, engage, and then bring other buyers that we perhaps weren't aware of, or perhaps didn't want to be engaged too early into the conversation. So this very quickly can become a tool that your buyer leverages inside their own organization. And guess what? Your name's right at the top of it, and you are already being seen as the trusted partner, the value-adding partner, the one who is starting to be positioned in the box seat as to, yeah, this is looking like a really good provider or future partner that we should seriously consider. These are the things that are starting because of you leveraging this so quickly. So how do you present it, right? We've talked about how you build it. I've kind of touched a little bit on the presenting. I want to come back to this because it is a critically important part of where I see top performers leverage this to drive the transference of ownership of ideas being the sellers to now the buyer owning those ideas as their own. Why? Because if we drive collaboration really effectively, the transference of ownership happens organically. Can't tell a buyer to own your ideas. You can't tell them enough in terms of why they should own it or why they should buy from you. They will make the decision and they will own that decision. But if buyers buy emotionally and justify rationally, then psychological ownership and driving that through collaboration early starts to meet emotional needs quicker. And as we know, emotional needs are quite difficult. You don't walk into a needs discovery and say, so tell me how you're feeling right now about this, this, and this, and how's that impacting your sleep? And, you know, I know some of you, well, maybe not everyone on this call, but people, you know, oh, what keeps you up at night? You know, well, you know, what keeps me up at night is people not really understanding my needs. It was a retort from a buyer that someone shared with me the other day. And another one was, what keeps me up at night is why sellers always ask me that same question. So emotional needs are difficult to uncover, especially if you have limited time with your buyers throughout the needs discovery phase of your selling process. But they're there, right? The emotional need set, the rational need set. But guess what? Everyone talks about rational. Everyone focuses on selling to the rational need. Yet how buyers buy is emotional. So you are actually meeting and engaging and will start to see the emotional needs of your buyers come to the surface very soon after you begin effectively collaborating with them. And they want to own a solution that is going to help them realize their new reality. They want to believe that a solution is going to get them to that new reality because it's going to make them feel more confident. It's going to make them feel more successful. It's going to make them feel more accomplished. It's going to make them look good in their peer group. It's going to position them well professionally. Like, we can keep going on. But they want to own it. Most sellers won't let go of the ownership. They won't transfer that. This is my solution, my idea. I've created it. I'm selling it. No, 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 no. You want them to be owning it as quickly as you possibly can. And that's what the Buyer Change Blueprint does. So how do we present it? Now, I'm just going to focus on the 3 box here, right? If you choose to do if you choose to do the bonus, the advantages of the approach, the metrics, the mission, that's up to you. But I'm just going to focus here because this is where I see top performers leverage the Buyer Change Blueprint incredibly effectively in terms of how they engage, right? So you start here. Quick walkthrough, and you pause and say, does that effectively capture, in that playback, does that effectively capture our understanding of your current state and needs? That's another part that you can start your collaboration. Pause, ask a really good question, and then pause. But if you've got a really good current state, well summarized, concise, a lot of buyers will say, wow, that's really good. Or they'll just say, yes, that's exactly where we're at. Great. We then want to go to new reality. Do not go to solution when you present back first. It is a big mistake. All right, I'll show you why in a sec, because we are still wanting the buyer to understand or see that you understand their world really deeply, right? So we want to go straight to new reality. We want to paint the picture of the future. And you can see that on screen. I know some of you are reading, which is great. And some of you are asking questions and pinging me on my text. I will not be looking at my text, but thank you for your questions. I'll get to them after the session. So painting a picture of that new reality. So they've gone, right, you understand where we're at. You really understand the future state, the new reality we're trying to achieve. And the outcomes that we are looking to realize through this. Okay, you've got my attention. Then we go and we share the solution very quickly, headline level, and invite collaboration. Give me your initial thoughts and reactions on that approach. Tell me what we might be missing. What are the areas that we really need to focus on versus others that are perhaps less important in terms of that? What would you like? What more information right now can I give you to help kind of close any gaps in terms of how this solution might take us from where you are to where you want to be? How aligned do you think right now at a headline level this solution is to making sure that we achieve those outcomes for you and make sure that that new reality becomes your new reality? And then let it flow. Let the collaboration begin. I've seen it done virtually, and I've seen people bring up virtual whiteboards. I've seen people do it in physical rooms, and then they start whiteboarding and they start building. I've seen the Buyer Change Blueprint turn from a 30-minute conversation into three-hour collaboration sessions where the buyer and the seller are mapping out really complex solutions together because this initiated that for them. It gave them gave the buyer enough confidence to say, yeah, this is a partner we really want to work with, but we need to spend more time with them. We need to go much more into the depths of all these areas and make sure that they fully understand so that this solution can be intricately aligned to our current, our current systems, process, environment, ecosystem. So let's have a look at some key takeaways, and then we'll get to questions, right? You cannot create effective buyer change blueprints that when you leverage them effectively is going to drive and put rockets on your deal velocity if you don't do a really good needs discovery first. And needs discovery is about uncovering the initial value gap, aspirations, afflictions, then keep going, asking really good and deep diving into impact questions, exposing the true value gap, the full set of your buyer's needs through an effective needs discovery. And when you do that and you play back through the buyer change blueprint, it like jumps off the page at them that, wow, this is different. This selling group really understands us better than anyone else. And they're back in front of us quickly to show it. You're differentiating through the way in which you engage and the journey you're taking your buyer on here, because you're showing up better than other sellers are, and you're doing it with greater speed. So we want to master the core components, right? For those of you who are super busy, and I know it's okay, right? Just focus on the 3 box. If that's your key takeaway and that's what you're going to implement post today, it's fine. But for those of you who go the extra mile and add the bonuses, the advantages, the metrics and the mission, it has improved impact in terms of it. But stick to the core if that's all you've got time to do. I would also suggest you do the whole hog in terms of what you do. Make sure you find a way to build it quick. And by the way, you will build a library of these. You will build leverage. I keep all of them stored in my large language model, and it builds real quick. When I go in and I talk about this, and by the way, I use the buyer change blueprint as a change blueprint as well. In my role, in my leadership role, when I want to change something, when I want to build a case to share with my colleagues as to why we should do something, I use the change blueprint, because it's an incredibly effective way to get everyone on the same page, understanding what are the problems, what are the objectives, what are the needs that we have right now, if we're able to realize that, what does our new reality and business outcomes look like? And here's how I think, here's a starting point of how I think we can get from where we are to where we need to be. It's not just in the sales process. For some of you, you can use it. It has a multitude of applications, but it is incredibly impactful and transformative in the selling motion. So we've got to do it quick, leverage AI over time so you can build them quick, get back in front of your buyer quickly to drive collaboration and start the transference of your ideas into ownership of them being your buyer's ideas, and watch what happens to deal velocity when your buyer is owning your ideas and wanting to work with you on bringing them into their organizations, right? I know that sounds a bit harsh to some of you, but it's not about you, it's about your buyer, right? Your ideas don't matter until your buyer owns them. Why? Because if they don't own them, they're not going to buy from you. The transference, the psychological ownership piece. I know I'm getting pinged right here, right now. That has been a big impact for some of you in this session. For others, it is leveraging the buyer change blueprint in order to drive deal velocity. And obviously, the quicker you do, and the quicker the deal moves forward and puts you in the box seat. And that's our aim. And I hope you've been able to see how we've helped you do that today. All right, we are 7 minutes to go. I know my friend in the marketing team, Ryan's looking at me going, didn't think you'd get there, but we got there. 7 minutes to go. So I'm happy to go to Q&A. So over to you, Katie. Do you want to?
Yeah, Andy, we have a question for you. They say, I agree with not being too detailed, but some clients, especially in the tech world, are very detailed. So you still need to be able to articulate the detail if that's the buyer type you're engaged with. Would you agree?
Great question. Great question. Okay, I'm just going to share some examples of what I know that I've seen work, right? So, and I don't know your individual selling circumstance or how your selling team is structured, but a lot of technology teams have solution architects, they have subject matter experts. What they tend to do is once the seller has done a business development manager, account director, whoever it is, whether it's net new or growing accounts will do, is if they think they've got a really tight read and understanding on the needs and the current state and the new reality, they'll bring in a subject matter expert to that next meeting. Why? Well, we're only just giving them a headline solution on something very complex. Totally agree. But who's the right person that if I'm in a collaboration, could I partner with in that next meeting to come and help go deep if we need to go deep? Once again, if you think about who your team is, if you have access to a team, access to other partners, they may not be in your direct selling organization, might be partners if you're selling with resellers or you're selling with other partners that may be working with you. Bringing in subject matter experts, if you've got a really good read and a solid buy change blueprint, really helps you go in that collaboration deep if the buyer wants to, instead of having to write it all up.
Awesome. And our next question, in tech sales, I can see the buyer change blueprint as driving the demonstration content. Should the buyer change blueprint be reviewed after the demo as well?
Absolutely. So the change blueprint changes. And the more you learn, you'll get into a collaboration session. I've seen buyer change blueprints completely stripped apart and rebuilt with buyers and sellers in that second conversation, because it's like it wasn't the playback was wrong or the understanding of need wasn't deep. It was just, hey, here's how we would word it, or here's the way in which we would build that. Let's do it together. It will change there. Sometimes you'll put it up and the buyer will say, that's brilliant. You've absolutely nailed it. Like, yep. I want to hear more on this solution. I want to go deeper on this. I want to go here. It will vary. But after a demonstration, if you've learned things, you've read the room, you've got playback, you can see there's perhaps new stakeholders that are engaged in terms of new needs that have shared, and expansion of need. We want to make sure that this evolves and is constantly updated. So anytime it's given, it's shared, it's taken by the buyer, they'll leverage that as a tool to go and socialize and engage with others inside their org much quicker.
Perfect. And our last question, how do you get the buyer to collaborate with you when they have to treat all suppliers equally?
Yeah, so it sounds like you might be in an RFP process. This in most cases would need to be before needs discovery before. It's going to be very difficult once you've received an RFP to get needs discovery time. You don't always get access to being able to have conversations, because any conversations that you have, they have to allow every other vendor to have those same conversations. And so buyers are not often going to go and run a whole needs discovery sort of session. This really needs to be, uncovering need, identifying need, doing needs discovery before RFPs. It is, if you get access to buyers during the RFP process, taking the RFP document, building a change blueprint from it that you can open that meeting with, could be, I've seen used very effectively, but not all sellers get access to buyers throughout an RFP process. So typically this is pre-RFP. If you get access to the buyer, you can build a change blueprint to start a really fruitful conversation if you do get access to buyers during that process. Hope that helps.
All right, that's all of our questions for today. Thank you so much for your insight, Andy. That concludes our seminar and the Q&A. Just as a reminder that we did record this event, so you will all receive an email by the end of this week with links to watch the recording. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.